All right, everybody, welcome back. It's the Wake Up Crew. Ray G, joined as always by my man Jay Rich, here to talk about the April 21st NBA playoff slate. Tonight we have Memphis versus Minnesota. The game is in Minnesota, so let's see if the Timberwolves can get one going at home. Dallas, Utah. We're waiting to see if Luka Doncic is back in this matchup from the calf strain. And then Golden State versus Denver. Golden State up 2-0 and have completely dominated the Nuggets so far this series. So we will dive into that. Yesterday, here's where we ended yesterday. So fantasy score, we saw the Claxton line came out at 26, did not like it, so we didn't touch it, no bet. But we did hit Joel Embiid over fantasy points scored. Giannis over fantasy points scored. He absolutely crushed that number of 56. Zach LaVine, he did it. It was a sweat.
It was tight.
It was a sweat, but he pulled it off. We went back to the well. LaVine over three-pointers made. Vooch, the fantasy score is money. This dude is very involved in that offense. He was money over fantasy points scored. Fred VanVleet, Jay, I told you I didn't like 3.5 three-pointers for Fred. He did not do it, was clanking it all over the place. Tyrese Maxey, Flames cooled off, did not hit his par nor his fantasy score, which I bet. But we talked about the par. You can sub that in for fantasy score. Didn't hit that. And Bobby Portis, I liked the line at 25. He got scratched in the eye and was out. So unfortunate beat right there. But overall, solid day. Not great, but not bad either. Fantasy score, I'm sticking with it tonight. And we're going to get into those plays right now.
For all the high-flying action, take a step back and relax. It's time to count that money, the NBA props. No look any further. You know what time it is. Presented by PRIZEPICKS, NBA props. Let's
count that money, man. All right, Jay, the first game that I want to dive into is the late slate and talk about Denver Golden State, and I want to talk about Nikola Jokic, the Joker, right, and his fantasy score of 59. I know he has not hit this number over his last two games of the series versus Golden State. What's interesting about the last matchup, that 51.2, he was well on his way to hitting that over, got a second technical foul and was thrown out of that game with about 7 minutes left. It's a high point total. And, at home, he's playing a lot better at home. He's hit his par in his last 4 home games. He's averaging 55.8 par at home over his last 5. This is one where if he's going to get you 52 par, you add in the fact that he is due and good for a couple of blocks potentially, maybe a steal here and there, and the fact that those assists and rebounds are worth a little bit more on the fantasy score. Still have to be a little concerned about the turnovers, right? He has been turning the ball over a little bit versus Golden State. They're forcing him into some bad situations, but I am willing to go back into the star-studded flames of Joker. It is do or die for Denver at home. He's playing much better at home, so I do like his fantasy score of 59. We have his edge, 8-point edge in our projection model to the over fantasy score on Joker. So I'm going back to the Joker fantasy score over 59 points in this matchup.
Yeah, I really like it a lot. And I think another point to let people know, like his fantasy score was 59 last game as well. And like you talked about, he would have easily smashed that if he played the extra 7 minutes. The other point to bring up is that role players play a lot better at home, right? And so Aaron Gordon, who's been struggling, Will Barton's been all right, Monte Morris. If you look at their splits at home versus road, they play much better at home. Aaron Gordon in particular plays a lot better at home. So his point total should be a lot closer to 14, 15, where he's been sitting at 8, 6, and that plays into Joker because that's the guy that he throws the ball to. He's able to dish it to. And when the role players play better, it's easier for Joker to get his assists. So I love this number at 59, and I love kind of your thought process behind it because PrizePicks decided to leave the line where it was, even though in reality, he would have went way over that. And so for me, I really like to play. I'm actually going to be going to Memphis, though. Memphis, Minnesota is where I want to be targeting today. We know what this game's going to look like. It's going to be a lot of running, a lot of pace, and I'm personally going to be targeting Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns' points at 25.5 is one I'm just not really feeling right now. We know who Cat is. He hasn't hit them very often. But more importantly, he's not really hitting this number as much at home. He's only hit this number at home once in his last 6 games. For whatever reason, he doesn't play as well at home. He actually plays better on the road. And then in particular, I'm going to be pairing this one with an Anthony Edwards over 24.5. I think what's going to end up happening is at home, they're going to be running, shooting a lot more, and that's just not as good for Cat's game. I think more importantly, these are the top two teams in pace. And I think it's going to show more so in Minnesota, where the crowd's going to be behind them. I think we see D'Lo take more shots. I think we see Beverly chucking threes. And then the crowd is going to feed off of this man right here, Anthony Edwards, at 23.5. You see this number at 24.5 on the books. So you're getting some natural juice there. I think he's good for 30. What happened last game was a bit of an anomaly from the standpoint of them getting blown out in Memphis. That's going to happen when you're on the road. When you're playing at home, crowd behind you, I believe personally that Anthony Edwards is good for an over, and we're probably going to see another cat under with him just struggling to get the ball in the post, and we see him posting up from the key, from the three-point line. It's just not going to work. And so for me, I'm going to be looking at Karl-Anthony Towns is under on points and Anthony Edwards is over in kind of a corresponding play as to how I think the game will play out overall. Ray, how do you feel about that? Do you like anybody on the Memphis side? And how do you feel about Minnesota just running and gunning in Minnesota tonight?
Well, I want to see if PRIZEPICKS is going to give us the gift of Steven Adams, and I want to see what his par and or fantasy score will end up being. We'll see how that plays out. I want to see what Karl-Anthony Towns' fantasy score total is, because I'm also looking at an under depending on what that turns out to be. They don't have any of those lines up right now for fantasy score for the Minnesota-Memphis game. Don't know why, but they do have, like we talked about, the Utah-Dallas matchup up, Golden State-Denver. I do like Anthony Edwards over points. I'll be looking at both of these fantasy scores just to see what they come in at. We went to the Brandon Clark fantasy score flames. He hit that last time from Memphis, so I'll be interested to see where his fantasy score total is. But the last player that I'm targeting for right now, and we'll tap back in later today when these other fantasy scores get updated, but Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert at home, all right? And this one, again, has not hit this number in his last two games versus Dallas. We talked about it, right? Rudy needed to score. Rudy needs to score in order to hit this total. When I'm looking at his par, Jay, and I'm trying to use the par to kind of correlate a little bit of fantasy score here, Rudy Gobert's par number is at 29.5. His last 5 home games, he has hit this number in 5 straight. He's averaging 36.6 par over his last 5 games. Tonight, the juice is heavily to the over, him to go over 29.5 par. When he's at home, he's getting you a couple of blocks, a couple of steals. Got to watch the turnovers with Rudy Gobert. But if he's going to go over the par of 29.5, then I think the fantasy score of 37 is well within play. And they didn't move this line up. They didn't drop it any bit. So a little risky with Rudy because he's not scoring. But at home, he seems to be playing much, much better. And in a matchup where, I mean, you look at his rebound number, his rebounds are already sitting at, 15.5 rebounds for Gobert?
Yep.
So, God damn it, Rudy, just score us 12 points, get a couple of blocks, maybe get a dish here or there, and don't turn the damn ball over. He should be able to hit this number. In our projection model, there is an 8-point edge to the over. I'm only targeting guys with 8-point edges or higher. So I feel confident in Rudy Gobert, the big men in this matchup. I'm going big men, Rudy Gobert, Nikola Jokic, and I will be watching Karl-Anthony Towns for potentially an under his fantasy score for tonight. That's what we have on this slate. Anything you want to talk about, Golden State, anything from Memphis, Ja Morant, Steph Curry, anything from those matchups, or you just kind of staying away and enjoying the game?
One guy I really want to look at a little bit deeper is actually Klay Thompson. So Klay Thompson's points number right now on the books is 22.5, but on PrizePicks, we have it at 21.5. And the reason why I bring this one up, Ray, is because in his last 3 road games, he scored 37 points, 25 points, and 41 points.
Yeah.
That's a big number. And so whether you like Klay at 21.5 or you like his 3-point number, I think both of these are very much in play. So his 3-point number is 3.5. He's hit that in 4 of his last 5. The one he didn't hit it was actually last game. And then like I talked about on the road recently, he's been cooking. Now that is without Steph Curry, so we'll see kind of how that ultimately impacts his numbers. But 21.5 for a guy who can really get after it, especially in the first half. We could see 15, 20 points from Klay in the first half easily, like we saw from Devin Booker just a few days ago. And so for me, it's not one that I love, but I might look at playing it a little bit because Denver ranks 30th in shooting guard defense and 21st in field goal percentage. So for me, I'm going to be looking at that a little bit. It's a very low number for Klay. Steph really took over last game. We know Poole's going to be a factor. And then, of course, I got to talk about Royce O'Neal. He's back at 6.5.
Oh, boy.
I might place a couple plays on my man Royce O'Neal. No disrespect to Royce O'Neal, but he's only hit it one time in his last 13 games. It was last game. He burned me when he was a 5.5. Now we get the 6.5 back. So I will be looking at putting a few tickets with Royce O'Neal in. So don't sleep on Royce O'Neal. He's always good. He's
I'm
always
not
good
playing
for
the
an
Royce
under.
O'Neal game this time, but I definitely can understand it. 1 out of his last 12 is nothing to be confident about. Again, big man show for me tonight with the fantasy score. Gobert, the Joker, Karl Anthony Towns potentially under his fantasy score. Jay likes the under points on Cat and the over points on Anthony Edwards. I do like that, and we'll be interested to see what his fantasy score total is. As always, it is data-driven analysis. If you tail, give him hell, and if we fail, don't bail. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about the Friday slate. Good luck tonight. Enjoy basketball, and we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you, and we are out.